Hey everyone, hope you're all well. Enjoying this lovely new year. We're going to be doing some weird science, as you'd expect, with the Dawa crowd. We're going to go to Mohammed Hijab, who's going to prove himself absolutely incapable of understanding anything scientific. So we're just going to jump right in and see this latest crap show.
Take one step back because I'll be honest, we're dealing with doubts, we're dealing with atheism, and we're dealing with the skeptic mind. Of course, people are going to say, well, actually, I don't believe in all this stuff, so to say. Yeah. In fact, some of them, they say, I remember walking home from school one time, and a person who was supposedly Muslim, yeah, I'm not going to reveal his name, but he came, he said to me, because I used to go to the prayer rooms and this kind of thing, he said to me, do you really believe in this thing? This is like this. And this was, by the way, this was the time where I think New Atheism was at its height, like Richard Dawkins and these guys. He looked at me, and then he started laughing. I said, "Do you really believe in this thing?" I said, I was surprised that he had that like mentality. But believe me, this mentality is widespread in the Muslim world, and it is widespread, obviously, in the world itself.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because half the time you go on about the fact that you think Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world and everyone's converting, and suddenly when you're talking to a Muslim audience, you're acknowledging a different set of reality, aren't you? You're saying that it's widespread that today's Muslims are actually embracing some common sense and some reality and some science and not indulging in the more ridiculous fairy tale sides of your religion, such as the Barak, which you're about to talk about, or angels with 600 wings. So yeah, you seem to be singing a very different tune that you often do, Mohammed. So yeah, let's carry on.
What are we talking about in the light yet? Heaven, hell, the angels, the wings. Is it 600 wings? The hand wave. What are we talking about?
Well, yeah, what are you talking about? I mean, you really believe in an angel with 600 wings? How's that going to work?
I'm into science. I'm into materialism.
Yeah, common sense, reality.
I think it's ironically Bernard Russell, the atheist, famously.
Right. I don't mean to pick at somebody who makes a mistake when they're talking. I mean, everybody does it. I mean, I did it on a previous video. I think I was talking about slavery. I gave the wrong year it was banned in the UK. I think I said 1837 rather than 1833. So I'm not picking on him, but every detail in this damn video he gets wrong. Right, it's Bertrand. It's not Bernard Russell. You were talking about the philosopher.
Who said, and it might not have been him, but yeah, he might have said this. It might have been him. He said today's technology is yesterday's magic.
Yeah, so that's wrong as well. As far as I can see, there's no quotation attributable to him saying that kind of thing. Now, I think you might be talking about the quotation of that any sufficiently developed technology is going to appear like as if it's magic compared to somebody who doesn't have access to that technology. That's the kind of spirit of the quotation. And that's from a science fiction author, Arthur C. Clarke. It's not from Bertrand Russell.
Yeah, let's just put something in perspective. First, let me make a claim, and then I want to back it up. My claim is as follows. Let me put this here. My claim is that it's the easiest time in history to believe in the Ghaibiyat.
And what a dumbass claim that is.
That's my claim. Yani heaven, hell, the angels, it is the easiest time to believe in it now than any other time in history.
Yeah, and all you have to do is ignore, as I say, all of reality, science, common sense. But let's see how you're going to back this claim up.
Why? If I took this phone 1,400 years ago when the Prophet ﷺ was around, we talked about already, we were outside, we saw the Jibal, we saw the mountains, we saw all this stuff. Yeah? We saw all of that. Now imagine taking away the buildings and taking away everything, taking away the electronics and the cars, and the people, you only got 10,000 people.
Right, so what are you talking about? Like the dawn of human beings, you're essentially talking about when you're talking about a population of 10,000 people. Okay, so you got your iPhone and you've done what? You've gone and met these people.
And I somehow go into a time machine and I take this phone with me, okay, and I start showing them YouTube videos.
Yeah, I think they'd be more impressed with the time machine rather than the mobile phone that you're carrying or a YouTube video. But okay, carry on.
Sources and this one and that one and your own content.
Oh, showing them YouTube videos of Hamza sources, really? That's what you would show to our distant ancestors. Okay.
And this one. What do you think that people are going to think I am?
An idiot?
No doubt. They'll say, this guy's a magician.
Yeah, I think if that was the best you could do was show Dawa videos to them, I think they'd give up on the future.
Yani, does anyone have a doubt about that? Imagine if I start to show them certain other technological advancements that we have up today. Like, for example, I show them the airplane. I show them telephone networking and these things. This is too much. The internet, I'll show them the internet. Yani, forget about 1,400 years ago. Yani, 500 years ago, 300 years ago, people would be shocked. In fact, I mean, I'm not sure, does anyone know how the airplane was invented? I mean, they say the Wright brothers, right? You know, the Wright brothers in 1907, I think it was apparently it should be 1907.
No, it was 1904, so again, another mistake.
There's two American guys, yes? Yeah, it's there's different claimants. You see, like, for example, in Brazil, they have this probably very important figure who has, I would say, a stronger claim, I forget his name now, to who invented the airplane, yeah?
Yeah, and I wonder why you would say that guy has a stronger claim. Because what you're doing your typical thing of trying to undermine anything that might have come from European scientists or their American, Canadian, or any other country, any of those descendants that happen to come from a European background. You want to try and trash it. And so what you do is you grab onto the one guy who's from Brazil, from South America, because you think, oh, no, he's not European, is he? Well, number one, yeah, any technological major jump like that, you often have a lot of different people working on it in different countries, and there are rivalries with claims. You've got that with things like the telephone. You know, you've got Alexander Graham Bell, who is typically cited as the person who invented it, but then you've got that Italian inventor who's also working on phone, and there's several others. So you get this all the time. You get it the same with cameras and everything like that. You get a bunch of people working on the technology, and who gets to claim it is up for dispute. Now, the problem with you with this is obviously you're trying to do the sort of anti-European thing here, but everyone who was working on the airplane were Europeans. You had French, you had German, you had the Wright brothers in America, and the Brazilian guy, which you want to quote, is actually a descendant from French immigrants. So sorry, Mo Jab, he's a European too.
Anyway, the point is this, is that when it first came out and he was starting to ride it in Paris, people were accusing him of all kinds of stuff. That was in 1907 or something like that. They were making a mockery out of it. If you look at the newspaper articles, they were making a mockery since this guy believes he can fly around the air. That's what they were saying. Now, you see why this is relevant. It's 100 years ago.
Yeah, it's not really relevant. Yes, new technology is often met with disbelief until you can demonstrate it. So really, what point are you making?
Well, the women didn't even have the vote in the country. They didn't until 1914.
No, it was 1919 in the US. So again, just mistake after mistake. I mean, do your research if you're going to give a speech on something, for fuck's sake.
Well, they had the Labour Party, they had this, they had that, they had the Conservatives, in America, they had the Democrats and the Republicans. Things were in place. They had the Constitution. They had.
Yeah, what is this ramble on about? What has this got to do with developing an aeroplane?
And they were shocked and bewildered at the fact that there were airplanes. They were making fun of that, in fact. Why? Because today's technology is yesterday's magic. Everything is incredulous to everybody.
Well, not really. Obviously, the people who are developing it, they're not incredulous. They believe they have an idea to develop the technology, and they eventually do. So again, I don't know what the hell you're talking about here.
Until it's seen. What is so difficult about believing in a creature with 600 wings?
It makes no sense. It's stupid. That's why.
Oh, yeah, I mean, nowadays we live in an age where these guys are showing me the Neuralink, something you put in someone's head, and then you can get their information from their brain. And
yeah, that's the key thing, though, isn't it? Showing it, demonstrating it. Can you demonstrate a creature with 600 wings? No, you can't.
you can load your information. They say, yeah, you can load it. And they tell you put the metaverse, they put the doubles, and they're in some other place. But they're in their mom's backyard, but actually, no, they're in Times Square. What I'm saying is now, with the age of technology, we should be the most capable of believing the ghaibiyat of any humans in any time in history.
Yeah, so you've repeated the same claim from the start, and yet you've not actually demonstrated in any way. You've just gone on an incoherent ramble about different technologies and visiting our caveman ancestors and whatever. How is this making your point?
Because we've seen it being proven so many times.
Seen what being proven? What the fuck are you talking about?
Where's the hadd al-a'la is where is the logical contradiction. So long as there's no logical contradiction, there should be no problem.
Well, there is a logical contradiction in an angel with 600 wings. I mean, for a start, what the hell? How are you going to fit 600 wings? I mean, these angels are supposed to be sort of human-sized, aren't they? And why would you need 600 wings when surely 2 would do? I mean, yeah, it seems to be a logical contradiction.
But you know what? Even then, I would say, you'd be very surprised at what people believe. Scientists, materialists, atheists. Have you heard of the double split experiment?
No, it's the double slit experiment, not the double split experiment. I mean, how many mistakes can get wrong? I mean, this video is less than 10 minutes, and every time he goes outside of Islam, points to anything, history, technology, scientific experiments, he gets everything wrong.
For example, I'm not going to go into details, but
yeah, because you don't know the details, that's why. But yeah, carry on.
I mean, on the quantum level, they say one particle can be in 2 places at the same time. You know Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or whatever it's called? I remember when he ran through the wall.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you're talking about superposition here, which is part of quantum physics. Now, quantum physics is an incredibly complicated set of ideas, and you know, even the scientists don't fully understand it themselves. But the point about that is quantum physics is trying to describe some observations about the world. And again, with the double slit experiment, I won't go into this too much detail, but I will give you some detail just for anyone who might not know this stuff. It's essentially you get what's called an interference pattern, where it seems as if you shine a light through 2 separate holes, which are the 2 slits, you would expect to just get 2 beams of light on the thing that's measuring the light as you go through the slits. Okay, so you have some kind of detection system at the back, and you expect to get 2 beams of light, but instead, when it shines through both, you get this interference pattern. It's like it's a spectrum of light and dark patches, and all quantum mechanics is doing is given a mathematical formula that tries to explain this unexpected observation. And the idea is that if you combine all the different possible paths, all the different steps of where the electron could go at the same time, then it accounts mathematically for the interference pattern. So it's as if you are saying, yes, the particle is being in 2 places at once. It's going through both slits at the same time, because that's how you add up the different parts of the mathematical equation, which explains the pattern. Now, obviously, it's really counterintuitive. And when you measure individual photons, yes, they appear to be just in the 1 place rather than 2 places. So it's essentially saying, yeah, we've got this mathematical formula which explains the strange phenomena that we're observing. Okay, now the scientists don't even really truly understand this, and quantum mechanics is an ongoing field where they're trying to make sense of a lot of these really kind of spooky things. But the point is, they're not just making stuff up. The whole point that quantum mechanics has come out of this realm of seeing observations which they can't explain and trying to come up with a language to explain it. Now, maybe at some point it will be worked out in details that make more intuitive sense, or perhaps we will find out that the nature of subatomic particles that are just really strange in a way that our ape brain that's evolved on this planet just can't grasp. That's not the same as what you're claiming, just a 600 wing angel flapping about the place. Okay, quantum mechanics is based on actual observations, and they're trying to explain it. It's not just making up fucking fairy tales.
People say this is impossible, but in the quantum world, this is possible. You can run through a wall and you can be in two places at the same time. Okay, I'll put it this way for you, yeah? If I were to take a quantum physics textbook, and instead of using the terms, the scientific terms, I will use religious terms. The whole thing becomes what they would call a fairy tale.
No, it would just be incoherent ramblings. I'm not sure how you would swap out religious terms. What are you going to do? You're going to call the particles Allah's will or something? No, I mean, this doesn't make sense what you're saying.
Immediately. But a fairy tale is the fact that the white man with the lab coat says it.
Oh, you got your little white man fucking dig in there, didn't you? I mean, I thought you might make it through this video without doing it, but you can't help getting your little racial crap in there. Yeah, like as if a scientist who is of a different race wouldn't have the exact same authority if they had the same skills and they'd done the same experiments and had the same qualifications. Yeah, it's because it's a white man in a lab coat that everyone's bending the knee to them somehow. It's such a ridiculous creature, man.
That's their prophet of the day.
No, it's not a prophet. It's somebody who's actually be able to demonstrate what they're claiming.
No one has seen this particle in two places at the same time.
Yes, because as I say, if you actually look into this, and it is incredibly complicated, it's down to a mathematical formula they're coming up to explain these strange observations. When you actually measure the particles individually, they don't appear to be doing that. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. This is a field that it's incredibly difficult to understand because it's so counterintuitive, but it's based on the experimental evidence.
And by the way, they can't see it. The quantum world is invisible.
It's not invisible. You can't see it with a naked eye, obviously, but it's only got a tiny range of things you can see with a naked eye. Yes, you measure it through other means.
I just let you know. Oh, look, you guys believe what you talk and say you believe in Burak, it goes here, it goes there, you believe in winged animal, donkey, this, whatever. Say donkey, it's so much easier to believe than one particle will be in two places at the same time, because that's logical contradiction.
And so again, yes, it appears to be a logical contradiction, yes. And it's not necessarily saying that that is how the universe is. We're just saying here's the mathematics that appear to be a successful way of describing it. Okay, it's the closest we can get so far. Interpreting the data is the hard thing and getting something that makes sense. But the point is the experimental evidence is there. If you don't think there's a logical contradiction with a flying donkey with a human face that can fly at light speed through space to get to heaven, to transport Mohammed there, you don't think there's any logical contradiction with that, then you're an idiot.
And if you don't want to believe in those things,
then you've got rationality on your side. Why don't you try it?
it's true. So the ghaib is the easiest thing to believe in today. Jannah, I don't believe in these things, it's my friend. But then when he goes to the scientists and they tell him in evolutionary theory that basically, I'm being vague here, or I'm being crude.
No, you're being stupid. You're not being vague or crude. I mean, you don't understand quantum physics, obviously. I'm not claiming to myself. It's incredibly complicated. But you don't believe evolution, which is far easier to understand. I mean, a layperson like me can understand it, can get a reasonable grasp because it's fairly simple in its basic premises and overwhelmingly evidenced. So the fact that you're even trying to compare that to quantum physics, evolution is incredibly easy to understand the basic premises of it. And the reason that you don't, well, it's partly because you're ignorant and you celebrate that ignorance, but it's also because it challenges the Islamic worldview. In fact, it utterly shatters it. And this is why you are discouraging Muslims to even look into it, because it's a threat.
That a whale-like creature became a cow-like creature.
No, for fuck's sake, it's the other way round. It's the cow-like creature became the whale-like creature. For God's sake, see, again, you can't even be bothered to get these details right. And then you're going to say, oh, yeah, evolution, what a wacky theory. Well, how about reading something about it first?
It's in the same family, according to the classifications. A whale became a cow.
No. A kind of hooved creature, mammal creature, was the ancestor of the whales. You can see them in the ancestors are on land, and yet they were near water. They were kind of semi-aquatic in their dwelling, and eventually that shifted into whale-like creature. And there's all sorts of evidence in the evolutionary record and in DNA and everything else that confirms that to be the case.
How did it just jump on the air? No, it had to make so many transformations.
Did it just jump on the air? I mean, what does that even mean? I mean, where are you throwing a bird in there? Did you think it's a flying cow or a flying whale? I mean, I'm not sure. But again, you know, this utter ignorance of how evolution works. They actually think like one species is just going to change into the next overnight. I mean, this is how fucking ignorant these people are.
Did we see those transformations? No, we didn't. But people believe.
Yeah, the transformations are through the long fossil record, etc. Yes, and you would know that if you ever bothered to look. You can go on. There's so many websites even. You can just go on, have all these details confirmed. It's nice and easy, simple enough for even somebody like you to understand, but you won't do it. And you can't even recall the details properly when you're sending out this propaganda to other Muslims.
Because the white man with the lab coat said it.
Oh, yeah, because the white man with the lab coat, again, this racial bullshit. There are plenty of evolutionary biologists who are not white, okay? I mean, they might not have your religious beliefs because it seems to preclude you from doing any decent science, but for so many Muslims, but yeah, it's nothing to do with somebody's color. Evolutionary theory is the most well-evidenced science basically in the human canon. Nothing to do with someone's race and everyone bending down to them because they're white. You idiot.
It's colonizing minds.
Colonize your minds. What does that mean? A dose of reality, you know, science is now colonization. And yet, I mean, this is the rhetoric. And yet, on the other hand, you'll say, oh, yeah, within Islam, you know, within the Muslim view, we really respect science. Unless it disagrees with you, unless it's uncomfortable, unless it destroys your religious narrative, then suddenly it's colonization of the mind. Jesus Christ.
He's told us what fairy tales to believe in. He's given it.
Yeah, and you're annoyed because you want to believe in your own fairy tales. And what you call fairy tales is actually something that could be demonstrated. So, I mean, it's a bit rich calling it that, but yeah, okay, carry on.
The label of approval, he said, this is the one.
It's not a label of approval. It's about reality. It's about what you can demonstrate. It's what science is.
But we don't even know this guy's history, the lab guy.
And what would his history got to do with anything? You think, what, if he's, you know, he's a bad person or something, that makes evolution not true? What the fuck are you talking about?
We don't even know what he's been doing.
Science, presumably.
We don't know what collaboration is for, what pharmaceutical company, all those things that we were.
Pharmaceutical company? What the hell are you talking about now?
Doing it to ham of the prophets. We don't do it to ham of these guys. What financial incentives does he have? You don't think scientists have financial incentives?
Well, some of them do, yeah, but what's that got to do with the theory of evolution? I mean, you can't stay on a single topic for more than a minute, can you?
The pharmaceutical companies and stuff, they are open. We want to maximize our profits. Eugenics, they were saying the black man.
Now we're on to eugenics. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, seriously, Yeah, now you're gonna, after doing your usual racial rhetoric, you're now going to start pointing the finger about racism from the 19th century. Yeah, this is going to be relevant.
It's less than the white man.
Yeah, the black man is less than the white man according to eugenics. Yeah. He was also less according to Muhammad, the prophet of your religion. I seem to remember him trading, what was it, 2 black slaves for 1 white slave because he thought blacks were not as valuable. So, yeah, I mean, really, you want to be pointing fingers? Okay.
And they were using science.
Yeah, they were using science badly. So what? Again, 19th century.
Even Charles Darwin, he says that the black man had a fifth. He had like a thumb on his foot. He didn't even know this thing.
Yeah, I've seen you claim this in other videos, and I've actually tried to search for this. I can't find anywhere where you've got this from. That Charles Darwin thought that black people had like a thumb on their foot, like some kind of monkey appendage or something like that. I mean, Darwin was carefully cataloguing species, and don't think anyone who's doing scientific work is going to be that ignorant. I mean, Charles Darwin actually spent a fair amount of time amongst black people. I mean, he was apprenticed. He apprenticed with a guy and learned a certain amount of taxonomical skills from this guy who was black, and he had plenty of interaction with black Americans when he went to America, and so I'm sure he would have seen a black person's feet at some point in his life. So where you're getting this bullshit that he thought that they had a thumb on their foot, I mean, this is just shit you've made up.
He said he's a savage. And then this Hitler and those guys, they use it eugenics programs.
Yeah, but what's got to do with Charles Darwin, for Christ's sake? Again, this trying to smear. You can't actually. I mean, you don't even understand evolution. One. And you certainly can't make any arguments against it. So you just try and smear Charles Darwin as if that makes any difference to the validity of evolutionary theory. And again, yes, we know Charles Darwin was a product of his time. He was in the 19th century. Yeah, he had racial supremacist ideas, as most people did at the time, which we can condemn him for. But it's got nothing to do with his science. I mean, grow up.
What I'm saying to you is this. Science can be misappropriated.
And how would you know, considering now you're so damn ignorant? I mean, yes, it's true. Yes, of course, science is neutral in the sense of it can be used in positive ways and negative ways. So what? What has this got to do with your claim that this era, it's really easy to believe in all the nonsense fairy tales of in Islamic mythology? You haven't even got near to backing that claim up with anything credible.
Can be used, can be weaponized. So the reason why I preambled, because a lot of this discussion.
That wasn't a preamble. That was just word salad, gibberish, fucking vomit, basically. It was a preamble to nothing. It was a nothing preamble to a nothing conclusion, which we're getting to.
It's about al-ghaib, about Allah taking the Prophet to a certain place, Sidrat al-Muntaha.
Yeah, a certain place through space on a mutant flying donkey at light speed. You know, give it its full title of what you're saying is apparently has no logical contradiction.
And this place and that place, and you saw this and that. So I can't believe in any of it. I haven't seen it.
No, well, it's not about I haven't seen it. It just doesn't make sense on about 50,000 different levels. It's not about having seen it with your own eyes.
In that case, let's reject almost all of science.
Where are you getting that from? Okay, because you're going to reject the mutant flying donkey at light speed. That means you have to reject all of science. That makes sense.
Let's see how the materialist in the dinner table feels like when he rejects quantum mechanics.
What the hell does that even mean? I mean, that was just a complete non sequitur to finish off your video. So I mean, let's just recap. His basic argument is that this modern era where we've got more knowledge than we've ever had in human history, you should be more persuaded by ridiculous Islamic fairy tales, because science can't be trusted, because Darwin was a bit of a racist, because cavemen wouldn't, they would be shocked by your iPhone if you showed it and went back in a time machine. And yeah, I mean, this is your argument. I mean, this is such an incoherent pile of mush. And I mean, it's fun. I mean, it's funny. I mean, you do come across as an even bigger idiot than you normally do. But I mean, what's worrying is you've got a following and you're pumping out this anti-science rhetoric, and you get pissed off because so many Muslims are actually using their brains and saying, oh, well, you know, even if they still got a belief in God, they're saying, well, yeah, obviously we're going to reject the more ridiculous sides of this thing. Yeah, we may still believe in God, but we're going to still have a rational part of our brain. We're still going to accept science and stuff. And you're so threatened by that you just do this bizarre rambling speech to try and shut that reasonable part of their brain up and say, no, you know, you've been ridiculous unless you believe in the flying Barak and the angel Jibril with 600 wings. Yeah, that's much more rational. I mean, you're celebrating ignorance, you're encouraging ignorance, you're trying to get other Muslims to embrace ignorance. This is why you are actually dangerous. I mean, you're a clown, but you're a dangerous one because you're just trying to send everyone backwards. Anyways, yeah, so this is me criticizing this dopey git again. There'll be more crazy science from the Darwin morons over the weekend, so stay tuned for it, and I'll see you in the next video, everyone. Take care.